I think so. But the modern ones are just as good. It's just if you have those, it's a nice showpiece.
Oh yeah.
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 Wait, I'll get a donut and you can really get a sense for what we do here.
Yeah, right.
Especially this guy.
Tearing up, reminding me of our and his furry friend, his cat.
It sure is, for sure.
I think wives never learn
Hammer it out. You guys use that
There's some stuff in my hand. You know, if you come across an owl, I mean, you probably want to call George first.
But you're gonna use everything by
Because there is a market.
No, absolutely
There's a
not.
market. But, you know, like that Northfield. I looked at it, and geez, what I'm doing now.
Are you trying to get away?
I mean, I'm not. I don't use that.
I don't want you to miss any interesting
But again,
stuff.
Oh, it's okay. No, we're all part of the picture here. No, you know, it's be dead without people.
maybe like $230 for a 3-horse drive. So, you know, and it's nice, like I said, you know, the nice part about it too is, these are all ones that drives too, I believe. Well, we can do it. This thing here, like, you just turn it off, it'll go for like 7.
But I heard you guys found out you share passions of
The driving program.
for YouTube and stuff. And there was a big one there yesterday. Is that one of yours? That's awesome.
Always one guy.
Are you gonna drive it to a
You know, somebody like shut it
Yeah,
down.
you're a fly. I was like,
5 minutes.
I should know that.
You know, and you're not thinking about it, you're talking to somebody. So, you know,
Have you been there?
we had to play around with it a little bit.
There's some things that you just,
Okay, here's something else really cool. And I noticed this when we dismantled it. The peak of the building isn't in the center. If you follow the center line up, the rafters on the front are longer than the rafters on the back. And only Jack himself could have answered that, because it was a mistake that he made in one of his scribe rule frames. So remember, you guys learned to be square rule timber framers. What preceded square rule timber framing was the European system of scribe rule timber framing, which we are not scribe rule timber framers. That's what they do at Williamsburg or Plymouth Plantation. So instead of fabricating things the way we did yesterday and using electricity, they do everything exclusively by hand. And they only square up what they have to. That's why people tell me all the time that, hey, my house has these logs, and it's only flat on one side. So they didn't go through the effort of squaring the whole timber up because it wasn't necessary. So, just a quick explanation. In a scribe rule frame, every joint that you see, so let's take a joint in particular. Let's take the original scribing of this brace into the tie-beam mortise. Not the one I added in the back, the one in the front. It takes 3 tries to get one joint executed, because you have to take one member, lay the other member over the top of it. Using a race knife, then, you make some initial scratches or scribes. I'm going to explain that there's log home builders. Maybe guys would understand laying one log over another log. And they take a set of dividers and they trace a log. Then they execute to those marks they made. The same thing existed with timber framing, but it wasn't called log home building, it was called timber framing. So, the reason that that's off, as Jas explained to me, and sometimes when I have two 2x4s in my hand, so they didn't prescribe to any particular angle when they laid this out. You know, they didn't have a rafter square or a calculator. They just did what fit, which would have meant they would have somehow simulated on the ground the width of the building and laid their initial pair of rafters out to make a pattern set of rafters. What happened was, when they laid one rafter over the other and made their initial scribes from the bottom to the edge, they chose the wrong side. You have to kind of do it with two 2x4s. So you could do the wrong side or the right side. Right meaning correct. If you did the correct side, it would come out dead center. If you referenced the bottom of this side, then it would come out longer than the back side. And Jack said the only reason and he knew the answer like that, is because he said the first scribe rafters I did, I made the same mistake. So he was like excited that somebody made that mistake 300 years ago. You know? So, any questions about in here? But yet the tie beams is hand hewn, and the purlin plate is hand hewn, right? So.
Hey George, that
Yes.
middle beam across, that's the purlin plate?
Yes, so that's mid-span on the rafters. It's purline,
Purline.
P-U-R-L-I-N.
Okay.
And so remember that, thank you for asking that question. Remember I said 22 foot, let that guide you toward your width without purlin plates and queen posts. And it's so your building doesn't spread. And it's the way I should teach it, like I said. I shouldn't be telling you guys to do things that are on the border of a building having a failure. I'm not going to do that. So the purpose of the queen post and the purlin plate is it hits the rafters halfway. Remember the math we did? A 30-foot barn has 15-foot queen beds. By design, it means it hits the rafter halfway. So they were so smart. It wasn't arbitrary what they made the width of those queen posts. And why would you not want queen posts and purlins? They add another look to it. You know, however, like our class project, you guys have to consider for yourself doing a project all by yourself. So for plays out in a good way. And a couple of guys who were in here in the beginning said, this is so good to be able to see these places. That was always my intention. So you come to my shop, it's 70 foot long. Then we go see the lumber barn. It's a nice little, everybody's asking me what size. The lumber barn is 20 foot wide and 33 feet long. This is 22 foot wide, like your class project, and it's 30 feet long. And it's 3 beds, right? And it's a small summer beam compared to the one that we did in class this year, right? It's got some pretty big braces here. And if you'll notice, you see the dovetail brace come down at the corner. Now the other half of that is dovetailed into the principal post up above, which, you know, we can go up. You guys can go upstairs. And also, do you notice that the first floor height is a little lower? So, you know, Donnie and I discussed what he wanted for his barn, and this is what he wanted. But this is why it's good for you guys. So, and again, all of our tastes are going to be personal, right? It's why there's a menu in a restaurant. But for me, bigger is always better. That's just the way I think. Okay, but my wife, believe it or not, is the opposite. She wishes we lived in a 17th century house where the ceilings were like this. You know? I like big things. So I always think your posts, the length of your posts, the shoulder to shoulder of your posts, drives the size of your barn. And you guys can see that, can't you? So these are, I think this frame was cut from 12-foot posts, right? Your class project was cut from 16-foot posts. That allows you to have, just do some simple math. You can have a very tall first floor with 16-foot posts. You can have a very desirable second floor. That's always what I think of. The posts in our federal period house, so the federal period was 1790 to 1830, roughly, that period of architecture. Federal period homes are usually very tall. I think it's the epitome of a perfect built home, a federal built home. Forget the style, forget the portico over the front porch and the leaded window, and the location of the staircase and the center chimney and the center beam. That's all brilliant. But what I really think was so cool in a federal period home is the full attic. They're 3 stories tall. A true federal is 3 stories tall, which means the posts are 18 or 20-foot posts. So we have done 2 projects. One was a class project. We did a house as a class project, and for a fellow named Tim Blaze, who was used to be a group member, and we modeled it after our house. We modeled it after that frame. And the reason the attic is so cool, think about this. The attic catches all the heat. Whoever grew up in a Cape Cod house like did, it stunk being in the 2nd floor when your head's right next to the rafters, right? In the heat of the summer. But in a federal period home, you have a full 2nd floor and a full attic. So that attic is acting as your, sort of your intermediate space.
No, you can't. Go ahead. You can. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Don't. It's part of the deal here. You're part of my actors.
We'd actually have to take the interpreter and tell them what they had to do. And they're like, no way. And they were like, $1. Oh, yeah.
It stops the building from spreading. The rafters are but they got contact. God's born body.
Be nice.
Except my mother bar, which is 20 feet. You don't need it in the
Downstairs level.
One little faster to the bottom. Just tone down. Screw it up. We do also you don't see it. We make it so
Scott pointed out the coconut ladle over there.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yeah, right over there.
That's from the morning. Right.